Welcome to the Tim Booker channel, where wisdom is worth sharing. Wishing you an enjoyable listening experience. Today, I'm going to talk about a book called Visual Reading, which is a reference book on the topic of reading. This book consists of a total of 240 pages, and I'll take about 23 minutes to share its essence with you. Let's learn together how to comprehensively improve the speed and quality of your reading. One of the most important skills we learn from an early age is reading, recognizing symbols and understanding the meaning conveyed by text. This process is somewhat like playing baseball, where the person in front is sitting, and you're the one at the back wearing a glove to catch the ball. So, who's standing in front of you, ready to hit the ball with a bat at any moment? Actually, it's the reading obstacles you've developed over the years. Many people struggle with reading due to these obstacles not being cultivated as a skill. Since reading is considered a skill, there's undoubtedly a difference in proficiency, right? It's similar to swimming. The most skilled athletes can swim at least 3 times faster than us ordinary folks. Reading follows the same pattern. Trained individuals can read at least 3 times faster than the average person and possess stronger comprehension skills. The most proficient speed readers are at least 10 times faster than us ordinary folks. Therefore, fast reading involves methods and techniques. Many individuals with reading abilities often remain at a very basic level, using the primitive method of reading from left to right, from top to bottom, one word at a time, one line at a time, after learning to recognize words and sequences. This is, in fact, the most primitive way of acquiring information. This book provides us with a comprehensive set of methods for fast reading, helping us enhance our reading abilities. The author of this book is Christian Gruning, who has founded the Gruning Institute in Germany and Gruning Publishing House. He is an expert in studying learning methods and improving reading efficiency. Next, I will discuss the content of this book from the perspectives of the philosophy and methods of reading. Let's start with the first part, the philosophy of reading. On the market, there are actually many books that teach us how to read quickly. One of the most widely recognized classics is How to Read a Book, first published in 1940, written by Adler. This book is considered a must-read for every reader. In this book, the author divides reading into 4 levels: basic reading, inspectional reading, analytical reading, and syntopical reading. Let's briefly introduce what each of these means. Basic reading is the ability to recognize words and sentences and understand the meaning of each sentence. Inspectional reading involves quickly scanning a book to understand what the author is primarily discussing and whether it's worth spending more time reading in detail. It's a filtering process. Analytical reading, on the other hand, is a comprehensive and in-depth approach to dissecting and absorbing a book. It involves breaking down the book's structure, understanding its paragraphs and hierarchy, and organizing the author's intentions and methods of expression. Syntopical reading is about examining multiple books on a specific topic, finding connections between different books and their relevance to the topic. The ultimate goal is to gain a clear understanding of the topic. These 4 levels require increasing levels of initiative and capability. Today, the book we're discussing approaches fast reading differently from this classification. It divides reading methods based on memory techniques. It explains the principles of fast reading from a neurological perspective and provides practical training and operational methods. Now, let's take a look at how the author of this book divides reading methods. The author categorizes reading methods into 4 types: linear reading, skimming, scanning, and pattern reading. The first method is linear reading, which is the most common one, where you read word by word from left to right. It's the most fundamental and slowest method, but is effective, especially for complex materials or when you need to deeply understand key sections. The second method is skimming, where you selectively read only the first line of each paragraph. This method is suitable for previewing a book to quickly identify its key points and decide if it's worth reading in detail. It's particularly useful when you need to rapidly grasp knowledge in a new field, like preparing for an interview. The third method, scanning, is more like searching for specific information in a book. You don't need to read every page, you focus on finding content related to your specific question or topic. It's a process of information retrieval. The fourth method is pattern reading, also known as the direct brain projection reading method. In this method, text is directly transformed into understandable mental images. People generally have 2 primary ways of receiving information: auditory and visual. Some are more auditory, meaning they're good listeners and process information through sound. Others are more visual, meaning they easily translate text into mental scenes or images. For those who are visual, they can directly turn text into understandable mental signals, skipping the intermediate auditory processing step. This means they can understand a piece of text like looking at a picture. Understanding this, the principle behind fast reading is essentially skipping the auditory channel and making text immediately comprehensible, as if it were a visual image. So, how can you develop the method of fast reading? This requires some specific and practical techniques. The author provides us with 6 techniques. The first technique is called using your finger to forcefully increase eye movement speed. Why use your finger? Because it's the most convenient tool you can use anytime. Our eyes have a characteristic that they need to fixate on something to see it clearly. This takes about 1/4 of a second, somewhat like a camera snapping a photo when it's focused. Linear reading, which we discussed earlier, involves focusing on one word at a time, like taking photos one by one. Fast reading aims to reduce the number of these jumps. For example, if there's a sentence with 10 words, linear reading would require your eyes to jump 10 times to read it. With fast reading, you aim to reduce these jumps. You might only need to jump twice to read those 10 words, and yes, you can do it. Our eye's focus area is actually circular. When you focus on a point, you not only see the center point but also the words around it, including those above, below, left, and right. Experts in fast reading don't read line by line but rather move their eyes in a zigzag or S-shape. They jump around, not only from left to right but also from right to left. Sometimes, they naturally go back, just like looking at a picture. So, while you might start reading linearly, you can break this habit by using your finger to assist you. This rapid movement of your finger beneath each line helps your eyes automatically follow the finger's speed and enhances your focus. It also aids in concentration because reading is inherently a stationary activity, and any distractions can divert your attention. Using your finger to move quickly forces your eyes to keep up with the movement, improving your concentration. But how fast should this finger movement be? It depends on your own pace. The author suggests a practice called the 3-2-1 exercise. Start by reading a passage with your finger moving quickly, reading for 3 minutes while ensuring comprehension. Then, mark your position. In the second round, try to read it in 2 minutes, up to your previous mark. In the third round, aim to complete it in just 1 minute. This exercise helps you gradually increase your eye movement speed. When you can read at 900 words per minute, you'll find that the inner voice in your head disappears, and you can still comprehend the text. The ultimate goal of this exercise is to eliminate the habit of subvocalization, which is one of the biggest obstacles to fast reading. The second technique is finding keywords. Instead of reading word by word or sentence by sentence, focus on reading in paragraphs. You only need to identify the keywords within each paragraph to quickly understand the author's point. The central idea of the paragraph is usually contained within these keywords. The third method is expanding your field of vision by reading more words at once. For this exercise, take a book, find a passage, and use a card to cover all but one line of text. Quickly move the card up and down, then cover the text again. This flashing exercise helps expand your peripheral vision. If you struggle to see the words beside the covered line, it suggests that you rely more on auditory channels for information processing, and you need more practice. Your goal is to look at the text for a short time, then close your eyes and recall what you saw. With practice, you can increase the number of words you can read in a single glance. The fourth technique is called being proactive. Why proactive? Because reading with questions in mind increases your efficiency. Reading is not like watching a movie, it's an active process. Watching a movie is passive, you can lie there doing nothing, and the movie will still carry you along, and you'll understand what's happening. But reading is different. Reading requires effort, like pushing a stone uphill. Even when you're reading a light novel, you still need a bit of effort. Your attention needs to be focused, otherwise, you'll easily get distracted and won't be able to continue reading. When reading, it's essential to have questions in mind about what the author wants to convey and the purpose behind the text. Read actively, predict as you go along, and analyze the author's writing structure. Moreover, while reading, it's crucial to maintain a certain speed. If your pace is too slow, you're more likely to lose focus. Why does a slow pace lead to distraction? It's because our brains process information very quickly. If the input of information is slow or insufficient, the brain naturally seeks other things to engage with, just like when you listen to a slow-talking professor, you may become drowsy or daydream. The brain needs a continuous flow of information to function, and stopping it is quite challenging without specialized training, which most people can't achieve. Even when you're asleep at night, your brain continues to be active, so it's essential to provide it with a steady stream of information. So, reading actively and quickly with questions in mind is like looking at a painting while speculating about the artist's intentions. This mindset is crucial when reading. The fifth part is about controlling the pace. Controlling the pace means not just trying to read fast all the time but adjusting your speed as needed. Learning fast reading isn't about constantly accelerating but mastering the right rhythm. It's like asking a seasoned driver about how fast they drive. They'll say it depends on the road conditions, weather, familiarity with the route, and how much of a hurry they're in. Similarly, you should adjust your reading speed based on the type of material you're reading. For example, reading novels, news, or articles on a public platform calls for faster reading. It's like driving on a highway, you shouldn't be going at 60 miles per hour. But when you need to read classics or complex articles, it's okay to slow down deliberately, read silently, and ponder. This is the kind of reading where you can't continue unless you fully grasp what you've read. Ideally, each sentence should inspire you in some way. This kind of reading is genuinely beneficial. The sixth technique is about shedding the guilt of not finishing what you started. What does this mean? Many people struggle with fast reading not because of the method but because they feel that if they don't read a book cover to cover, word by word, they won't fully understand the author's intentions. It's similar to having a long conversation with a friend. The next day, you may not remember every word they said, but you'll remember the stories, anecdotes, and key points. Reading is the same way. If you finish reading a book or article with no strong impressions or takeaways, it might indicate that the author's content wasn't engaging or relevant to you. In such cases, it's perfectly fine to move on to the next book or article. Don't let one book hold you hostage. Reading should be approached with a relaxed and conversational attitude, and the guilt of not finishing something should be discarded. Embrace a casual approach to reading, and it will enhance your reading experience. In the previous discussion, we covered the levels of reading and some practical techniques. Now, let's put these ideas into practice and talk about how to read a book. When you get a book, the first thing to do is to give it an initial glance. Think of it like entering a forest. You'd want a map, right? The best approach is akin to taking a helicopter ride first, circling in the air to get an overview of the entire forest. Reading a book works the same way. Many people, when they start reading a non-fiction book, don't need to follow a strict sequence. The goal with non-fiction is to understand ideas, so there's no need to worry about spoilers. However, for literature, it's a different story. For instance, in a novel, if you already know who the murderer is from the beginning, it loses its essence. Does rapid reading, as we discussed earlier, apply to novels? Yes, it can. With speed reading skills, you can convert text into mental images, making reading novels more like watching a movie, which can be quite exciting. In any case, when you receive a book, take the time to give it an initial glance. This way, you can understand the author's overall structure for the forest, where to go fast, where to go slow, where to set the scene, and where to focus. The specific method involves looking at the table of contents, major headings, and subheadings. Quickly go through all the headings and any bolded or highlighted text to create a mental map, which should take around 10 minutes. The next step is rough reading. If you consider a book as a pot of stew, your goal here is to pick out the meat, the essential parts. Typically, the meat is found in the first and last paragraphs of each section. If you're reading a physical book, you can mark important parts. For ebooks, you can highlight significant passages. Remember, don't be overly attached to the book itself. Some people treat books like precious treasures and hesitate to make any marks. However, books are meant to serve us. Do you know how authors read books? When they decide they need to read a book, they typically buy 2 copies. They read the first one straightforwardly, and they cut up the second one. After finishing, the second book is a mess, but it contains the essence of what they need. When they later write or need material for reference, they have it ready. So, this is your second reading. After this, you should have a good grasp of the book's overall meaning. You'll know what the author primarily wants to convey, which chapters are essential, and which parts directly relate to your needs. This process takes about an hour. Afterward, you can put the book aside and take a break to let the information freely interact in your mind. After some time, pick the book back up. You'll notice that the parts you don't remember much are likely not significant. What matters is what you remember. Now, you can focus on those parts and read them closely, taking notes if necessary. At this point, you're not concerned with speed, you're aiming for comprehension and insight. This process doesn't have a set time, read as long as you want. For classic books or texts that require in-depth understanding, you can read them repeatedly. What defines a classic? Every time you read it, you gain new insights. This type of reading is exceptionally beneficial. These steps summarize how to read a book, 3 readings, with a detailed focus on significant sections. If you follow this approach, congratulations, you're well on your way to becoming a skilled reader. To conclude, this book introduced reading levels and a practical rapid reading method. Its principle is to convert text directly into understandable mental images, breaking the habit of subvocalization and significantly increasing reading speed. It also introduced a series of related operational techniques, such as using your finger as a guide, the 3-2-1 exercise, eye jumps, widening your field of view, and controlling your pace. Additionally, it outlined the 3 specific steps to reading a book: preview, rough read, and detailed reading, all of which are highly practical. In reality, reading is an essential skill. In an era filled with distractions, having the ability to read a book thoroughly is like acquiring the skill to converse with great minds across time. You have a vast advisory army to assist you when facing choices and challenges. You've acquired the ability to obtain information at its source, and all these factors, accumulated over time, will undoubtedly transform your life. That concludes today's content. Congratulations on completing another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel audiobook section. Like and share with your family and friends. Wisdom is worth spreading, paving the way for a brighter future. Thank you, and goodbye.